Hi, and welcome back to Stone 16.
So, Quaker, could you take the volume down?
I'm sorry, my voice could be a bit triggering.
I'm trying to do an ASMR video.
We have this here in the middle of us to show that we're responsible.
It's actually to show that we're afraid of everything.
We don't want any sort of even slight criticism from like a mom who has 2 people she influences in Kaysville, Utah, leaving a mean comment because we have no left.
Yeah, it's pointless. It really is. We shake hands after.
You know what I think about this? About putting this up? That's what I think about this. That's what I think about it, all right? Let's start the show. All right, we're doing this one a little bit different style podcast, just like just the camera on us, you know what I'm saying? Kind of reminiscent of another show, but
yeah, I wish it seems familiar for some reason.
I've been shadow banned from it.
Why don't you explain that quick? Why don't you explain what happened?
Okay, so I used to do this show, really run by pretty great people, called Saints Unscripted. But I've become so controversial, and I've become so...
You're mildly controversial.
I'm really like not controversial. For Utah, I'm controversial, but that's the bar. That's like I'm Teen Nick. Well, everybody's still at Disney Channel. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's about the level.
But I'm so controversial. They took me out of all the thumbnails, and so they had this thing. It was like it had a couple 100,000 views. I think I might be mistaken, but one of the top videos,
like 400,000 views.
It was Kwaku's conversion story. And like I would still get messages years later from that saying like, "Oh my gosh, that helped me so much. Thank you so much." And so they took it down because I'm controversial.
They took it down. But it's not like you weren't just a guest host there. I mean, you did that for...
Yeah, no, I was one of the hosts of the show for about 2 years. Helped start the show. The original logo had like my head cut out in it when it said 3Mormons. But the show has taken a different direction. It was sort of very kind of normal LDS when we started. It's gone more progressive LDS. That's sort of the avenue they've gone.
It's become very, very quiet.
But you know what? That's all right, because like that's the host. Their new thing is that they're quiet. My whole thing is I'm like, like everyone knows that's like who I am, right? Yeah. So but this I want to talk about the most important part of why we're doing this today, because. How do we say this? How do we say this in the nicest way? Gen Z members of the church. Our cojones. We do not have our cojones. Our cojones are in a coin purse.
This message brought to you by Borat.
How much?
Okay.
Very nice.
You would probably edit that part.
Yeah. But yeah. Here's the rundown. The show I used to do was it was marketed toward kids, like high schoolers and stuff, right? It'd been a lot of people started watching it and they started converting and all this stuff. And then we realized we started a fun show that was really being successful in people's testimonies. But what made it successful was that I was being unapologetic. Ian was being unapologetic. We just straight up said, yeah, this is what we believe. And we were doing episodes like What is Kolob? And we were opening up, we were going, Kolob. Yeah, it's real. And it was like, that was the attitude. And people were like, I kind of like that. Like people responded to the fact that we were like, yes, we're Mormons and we're proud. Deal with it. You're going to keep watching too because it's interesting.
It's a breath of fresh air.
Right.
It shows that you're actually genuine. I don't like it when things are too like contrived or designed or scripted or quiet when I have to turn the YouTube volume all the way to the max. It's like, I don't know.
And so the show was, that's how the show was. But as things went on and more debate started happening and church media changed, even like in the last 5 years, it changed so much. You know what I'm saying?
It's changed a lot.
And so the show that I was on decided to go in a different direction. They decided to become more progressive LDS. So little less Dallinate chokes, little less, orthodox in theology and in doctrine. Probably more similar to like Episcopals, you know what I'm saying, or like Community of Christ than before, that kind of a thing. And so I don't necessarily fit the mold for very nice, super woke, soft-spoken boy. I'm just not who I am, So
they threw you out. They literally erased you from history.
Well, they did. They couldn't take me out of all the videos, so they just removed me from the thumbnails and deleted like the videos where I was like the head of.
Do they hate you?
I don't know. I don't think so. I know the people in charge. They're great people, but I do think like any organization.
Who's in charge of the thumbnails?
I don't.
Someone has it out.
I'm not sure if the people who are still working there when I was.
That is so petty.
Yeah, they took me out. There's hundreds of videos. They had to go through and do a remake of every thumbnail just to make. That was probably like 3 days work of one intern. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that
to
what
like
Stalin did to like all his enemies? Are like, you're out of the photo. You're out of the photo.
And look, you know what? People always say, gosh, your church just has so many racial issues. It's not like one of the top church talk shows ever took the painstaking time to erase the one black guy. Oh my gosh. But the reality is, though, they've taken the show in a certain direction, and that's a certain audience. You know what I'm saying?
It's a very quiet direction.
Yeah,
They're not marketing to the hearing impaired.
Oh, jeez.
They can't hear. I have to turn it all the way up, and they talk like this with their plexiglass between. You don't think the air is gonna get over? Okay, at a checkout line, I get it. At customer service, I get it. But like, me and Quaku see each other all the time. Putting a plexiglass thing up, it's like.
Also, you know, like, as they walk into the studio, you think there's just some guy holding up plexiglass between them the whole time. It's like right when the camera comes on, you put the plastic up. Let's be real. Stop faking. Stop faking. No, but I think on the bigger scheme, people have wondered why we're combative and why we're in your face.
Quaku, you're not combative.
I'm not actually
You photoshopped Hitler's mustache onto someone you debated.
Yeah, because he said Anne Frank had it coming. That's why he was saying things that neo-Nazis would be like, yes, that is true. It's like,
we found one of our own, boys.
Blood and soil. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. So I did, but like using humor, being funny, being more rebellious, being reckless. That's always kind of been my style. And I've had a lot of people be like, Quaku, like, why are you not just being like Jackson Washburns? Why are you not just being like the David Snells? Why are you not just being like, you know, the more tame, sweet apologists who don't really want to like cause any trouble? Because that's just not who I am.
Like, no, everyone knows what they're getting when they ask me to be part of the show. I don't think that they were expecting.
Well, for some reason, we have a lot of people. I think who used to watch things Unscripted and those things, they've wondered, like, have I seen a change? I've stayed the exact same. It's just that church media has changed. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm from Houston. I'm from Texas. People at my high school would duct tape big Texas flags and speed down Fry Road to get to the high school just so the Texas flag could wave in the wind and people would be honking as they saw them go by. Like, that's the kind of environment I'm from. Very much extra. But I think what we bring on Stone 16 is we bring a level of fun and excitement that you should have when you're talking about the gospel. We're talking about the best thing ever and the message of eternity. Why would you be monotone? And do you think it's hard sometimes to be a member? I do.
It just seems very like a lobotomy patient. Someone who's just had all of the life sucked out of them.
Yeah.
Hearing, and I would see this on my mission all the time too. You'd see the missionaries who like open their pamphlet, and then they're talking. I mean, like, it was like they were advertising for a funeral home. No wonder nobody joined the church. Like,
excitement.
Reverence has its place. I totally get that. You want a place like the temple, sacrament meeting, that makes sense. But this is like enthusiasm has its place too.
Oh yeah. Also, we've decided that being soft spoken, monotone, and as not controversial as possible, to the point where you barely say what the church believes because you want to walk on eggshells and you want to make sure nobody leaves, that kind of a thing. That is not what Jesus would do. When I read the New Testament and the Doctrine and Covenants, I swear I'm reading a different Jesus than half the people like doing a lot of the church YouTube stuff. I'm like, but he calls himself the Lord of Sabaoth. That means angel armies. You know what I'm saying?
He calls people vipers. Also, not for like the heaviest offenses either. It's kind of like, well, what's the authority? Vipers! guys, we can do better. We can do a lot better than what we're doing right now.
What's the? I want to find the verse. Wait. This is my favorite.
Do you have 289 unread text messages?
Yep. Wow. I do. All from the cast of Saints Unscripted. I'm kidding. Oh, wait. Gosh, I can't even type. I can't type because I cut my hand open slicing an avocado. I had to get stitches. No. Okay. So, I think one of the biggest things I see on Twitter and all that stuff is like the church splits families apart because members stay, and then when you want to leave, it's hard, and you split families apart. That's not what Jesus would do. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
Didn't he say in the verse right before something?
I've come to bring peace. But a sword! We are forgetting who Jesus is. Jesus is not. Maybe you have too many watercolor paintings of him like holding a little kid's hand at Deseret book. Like maybe we've just decided to go so softy.
Watercolor Jesus.
When we forgot, he is not he is not Corey in the house. He is not like Mr. Mosby.
He was willing to die for what he knew was true. If that is not an indication of how strongly he held his beliefs and what he knew.
Let's phrase it like
Joseph
this.
Smith died for what he knew. All of the prophets die for what they know.
They killed Jesus. Who is more combative? The guys on Stone 16 and This Is the Show? Or Jesus? One has been crucified. The others, nothing. Like we're forgetting that. Okay, how about this? I'll say it this way. When we decide that Christ-like is to not have fun and make sure nobody's feelings get hurt, that's not Christ-like. You know the saying, wickedness never was happiness from the Book of Mormon? What about cowardice never was righteousness? What about that? Jesus was killed for what he said. They murdered him. They hung him up in a cross and tortured him. And it took him forever for his blood to fall out. And people are crying as I see him being tortured and in pain. They hated everything he said so much. He said, think not that I've come to bring peace, but I've come to bring a sword. He set up his church and said, I am... Before Abraham was, I am.
That's the best quote.
And they're going, what?
You can't say that. Just did.
You're saying we're wrong? Yes. You're vipers and white sepulchres. Oh, well, that's not Christ-like. I'm Christ. It makes the point.
He has a point.
Well, okay, let's just, you know what I'm saying? In the Book of Mormon and 3rd Nephi, they hear Christ coming. You know what I'm saying? They hear him coming, and the first thing he starts saying is like, I've destroyed the city of Moroni. I've destroyed this city. I've set Zarahemla on fire. You're like...
Why does he have the commercial voice, when they're announcing, WrestleMania or...
I always give him like the Alex Jones voice.
That's a little bit more gravelly.
Lizard people, Hillary Clinton needs babies. Like that whole thing. No, but remember, I'm reading the scriptures and I'm seeing the way Jesus was, and I see sometimes more of like literally a general in a war.
Yeah, he was strong.
Extremely strong. He was not this fluffy duffy wimp that we've decided we need to preach. Because here's the thing. So what's happening on church YouTube right now, and by the way, not all church YouTube, there are some amazing YouTube channels out there run by seminary teachers that are bomb and far more successful and far better than that, like really great ones. But the ones that my name's been attached to, a lot of those ones have, and those adjacent have decided, and this is what it looks like from the outside looking in, right? It looks like they've decided if people leave the church, that's really, really bad. So we have to make sure we speak in a way where nobody feels like they should leave.
Which is, listen, we want everybody to stay in the gospel. It's the plan for everybody. However, you cannot hold beliefs that are against everything that Jesus stands for and that we as members of the church are supposed to stand for, and then expect us to embrace those beliefs, whether that's, the nature of the Godhead, the eternal nature of the family, how we should worship. Those are fundamental, and those are the things that we're not going to budge on. We're not supposed to budge on those things. If we give up those things, we give up our religion and our God, which would be really, really bad. You can't say, I'm going to leave the church unless you accept A, B, C, and D, because that's like the hostage complex. It's the person who's like, well, unless you do this thing, I'm going to do something horrible. That's not how it works. We don't negotiate with testimony terrorists, which sounds like such a primary thing. It's
It
like,
does.
this is a testimony terrorist. We don't do it. Otherwise, what is our religion? Why did the people cross the plains? Why did Joseph Smith die for what he believed in? Why did all of the apostles lay down their lives for what they believed in? It's because it's true. And if the truth doesn't matter when your feelings get involved, then what is truth?
There's no eternity. There's like,
it's how things are. People don't realize this. Some things are subjective, like whether I like a book or a painting or whatever. Those are the things that I'm perfectly willing to say are subjective. Some things are just the way they are. Gravity exists. The fact that
so what are you gonna say?
I'll tell you after.
Well, so from This Is the Show. Rest in peace. This is the show. We had the guy who wrote the CES letter, who is, a dude named Jeremy Runnels, and the CES letter is like his book that he crowdsourced, to prove the church false or whatever. But he has a whole section of me, Brad, and Cardin.
Oh, it's got the Cardin when he was arrested.
And the whole thing is like, Brad seems like a good guy. He's a theater dude. Cardin Ellis snuck a box cutter knife onto a plane and then showed somebody on the plane that he did it, and then because he thought it was funny, and then they arrested him. That is hilarious.
That is not hilarious. I want this to go on record. I completely disapprove of Cardinal.
So funny.
Not funny at all.
That is
9/11 Kwaku. 9/11.
Let's find out. Okay.
No. Cardinal,
so
I want you to know.
He uploads this part, and let's see if we can like zoom in of me dancing at a party, because I run a party company. And it's like he quotes like
he looks so different. It's like party Kwaku. Hi, I'm Kwaku.
but he says this. Kwaku is the most visible and more well-known individual in the group due to his involvement with other YouTube channels such as 3Mormons and Saints Unscripted, same channel, as well as being all over the news as mentioned above. He's also well known online for provoking and instigating fights with evangelical Christians as well as progressive and ex-Mormons. And so he just goes on and goes on and goes on. Oh,
this guy has paragraphs on you.
Kwaku wrote and starred in a film called 700 Miles. Let's see how virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy Kwaku's movie is.
Do you know what my favorite thing is? Do you know what my all-time favorite thing is?
What?
To have people who have left the church, apostates of the faith, then judge me by my faith. They're like, well, you're not living I get it. I am a hypocrite, and I fall short in most, if not always. However, it is the height of hypocrisy to be like, well, this is your rule book, which I completely reject. I think it's disgusting, immoral, bigoted, all of that. But you're not following it. Isn't that a win for you? Don't you? Isn't that what you're going for?
He says, warning, explicit language and sexual content. So I made a rating on a movie a couple years ago. I threw parties that were rebellious that the school and some of the county said I shouldn't throw, and then I was in a rated R movie. Are you trying to make me look cool? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Jeremy Runnels is a 5'5", kind of overweight, balding dude in his
5'5"?
he's like in his 50s. Yeah,
He's 5'5"?
he's pretty short. He's a short, kind of chubby, balding dude.
He's a munchkin.
And he's like, Kwaku
That
throws
explains
parties
so
with
much.
pretty girls, and he was in a rated R movie. Yeah. Mormons, we are better as rebels. That's what I've noticed. We are much better when we're the rebels. Like,
We don't do well on defense.
my big, like, the biggest thing that the anti-Mormons get us on is the fact that we don't fit in, like, the cookie cutter. They want us to be cookie cutter because they're now the cookie cutters. They're the ones who say, whatever journalists write, they go, yes, I agree with. Whatever the government says, yes, I agree with. And whatever, like, the current pop culture woke opinion is, it's, yes, I agree with. And we're the ones making jokes, you know what I'm saying?
You can't...
Like, having a good time. Like, Joseph Smith did nothing wrong. And I got a picture of him holding a sword. You want to fight? I was in a rated R movie, and, like, it's, like, fun. And that's why people respond so well to us, because they go, yeah, you guys are fun, and these ex-Mormons are boring. Like, that's why I like you guys. Like, you're young and fun, and they're boring.
I'm sure they don't agree with everything, but it definitely is more entertaining. You can't say that you're a rebel if you believe if all of your beliefs line up with multinational corporations, the federal government, mass media, mainstream culture,
But
entertainment.
we're oppressed because we got to take down Neil L. Anderson's talk from General Conference
I'm
7
not
years
saying
ago.
you're wrong, and I'm not saying the world is like going, but you can't be a rebel. And
You're not a rebel
Every
if- yeah.
single one of those boxes.
We're the counterculture, and that's why it's fun. But
It
I
is
want
fun
to say
to be
this. He said
counterculture.
some people try to rationalize and defend Kwaku's hypocrisy by claiming that he wasn't converted to Mormonism when his repulsive movie came out.
You were a convert.
I wasn't in a porno. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like this repulsive. Oh my gosh, what did he do? It said the F word.
There's a scene in there, Quay. There's a little bit of a racy.
Oh, boobs. Whatever. Okay, so
Gosh.
so here's the thing. Here's
You
what-
were an early convert. I feel like you get a pass.
we started
like, the
writing.
first year.
We were planning this before I had joined the church. Like, this script was in motion.
Yeah, I feel like the first.
I was
year,
like,
you kind of like got on training wheels. You're like, oh,
My
there's-
first
there's
year,
more
I was in
room.
the like I moved to San Francisco in the YSA ward, and they would text me weekly to make sure I came. please don't go inactive. But here's a funny thing though. Here's how here's how much these guys don't know about just a lot of stuff. So he says this. His repulsive movie came out according to his IMDb and Amazon Prime. The movie's release date was May 22nd, 2018. Here's Kwaku's blog, where he often talks about Mormonism and shares his testimony ad nauseum. It's dated September 30th, 2015. 2.5 years before his disgusting and profane movie was released. These people don't know how film production works.
Since when
They
does
literally
he-
think you shoot a movie and then it gets released like that year. It takes months to shoot a feature film.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it takes a year to edit it. And then there's the process to get to actually make sure it's bought, you know what I'm saying? Selling the rights. Then we had an original soundtrack for the film, right? So we had to rent out studios in New York for Kaysen to compose. We had to do so much. These guys don't understand how production works. It's the same reason right now because Fair Mormon just totally rebranded. They became Fair LDS, right? So they took down This Is the Show. They took down a ton of other videos too. And because sometimes you have to say, all right, this stuff belongs in a different channel, and then you move stuff around on channels. That's how production of film works, and these people have no clue. They're like, I was baptized in 2015, and then he had a movie with boobies. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, this was in the works before I was LDS. Go on my IMDb, you'll see other films that are on there before I was LDS. It came out when I was LDS because there were years in between because you're making a feature film, and these people just they don't know. They do such little evidence, and this is why I don't trust these guys with church history. They can't even get the story straight of something 2 years ago. You think I trust them with 200 years? No, I don't. I don't trust you, Runnels.
But does Jim Reynolds honestly are we supposed to believe that he's never seen a rated R movie?
I have. Look, if Jeremy,
Jeremy, if you're out there, let me know. I'm curious.
Jeremy, if you are. If these guys,
You're a better man than me if you've never watched a rated R movie.
I
Despite
I
the
left
fact
the
that your
church
letters-
because I saw some members watching Titanic, and when Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet had the
When I
foggy-
heard "Draw Me, Jack," that's when I knew it was over. I'm never going back. Not ever. Not no matter how many times the Relief Society brings me brownies. I'll know that she watched Titanic.
That was offensive.
Come on.
Because I mean, the tables have switched so much. Where now it's
irony.
like
It's
we're
the best of irony.
we do better as rebels. That needs
We
Gen Z LDS. Listen to me right now. We are the rebels in the counterculture. Have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, James, the academics going to do what the academics are going to do. They have to make sure they get their job at their whatever community college they're going to be teaching at. You know, they got to make sure that they have to update their blog that only 7 people read, except for Steven Smoot. He's like the best. He's literally in Neil Rapalai. They are the kings. Okay, but then it's and then they have to make sure they don't hurt anyone's feelings because they got to get tenure. Academics exist for academia.
Academics are great as far as they go.
You're right.
But expecting them to carry the entire weight of the church and the spreading of the gospel on their
It's a
shoulders.
terrible
That's
idea.
a lot. That's a lot for anyone.
Let them be academics, and then let other people let the academic apologists be them. Let the cultural apologists. This is what we do. We have fun because the youth we have decided cohesively We're going to be the rebels. We are not going to listen to the anti-Mormon establishment that's frankly kind of boring and says, don't watch rated R movies. And if you have cussing, that's bad. And if you make a talk show, you can't hurt anyone's feelings. Like, when did you become such a tampon? A wimpy tampon.
Oh my gosh.
Can I say that?
At least tampons are useful. At least people are not. They're not.
It's true.
The only way to not like offend anybody is to do nothing, to be nothing, to say nothing. I would rather not live my life in a straitjacket.
Brigham Young offended a lot of people.
He lot of people. You know what else he did? He started like 400 towns, more than any other person in history that we have record of.
He led 70,000 people across. They walked across the country.
70,000. Brigham Young said some things that by today's standards are
very racist, but you know what?
There's something.
You get a pass.
There are things that if you said today,
Brigham Young is my neighbor. You understand? You get a pass. Once you lead 70,000 people across the desert, start a theocracy, and carve a temple out of mountain granite.
That's the coolest.
You get a pass. I don't care what you said. I don't care how many women you married. You saved your people. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
From being killed. In Missouri, it was legal to
gang raping LDS women.
Happened
shooting children, keeping them in
Eliza
barns.
R. Snow could not have children because she was raped. Like
by a Missouri mob.
That's how bad it was. Imagine how bad it would have to be to prevent someone from having children. Brigham Young had seen his family, his neighbors' children gunned down, raped, murdered, and driven out. And you know what he said? I'm going to do what I have to do. And he got him out of there. He took them to a desert. Salt Lake Valley is the worst place on planet Earth. Short of maybe the Sahara or the Gobi. It's horrible. Native Americans lived in Utah, but not very many lived in the Salt Lake Valley. It's a horrible place. No one wanted to live here. The water is made out of salt. That's how bad it is. He came here. We irrigated. They lived off of like squash and like flower bulbs for like the first 3 years. Basically starving. And they created the Salt Lake Valley.
Utah.
You have a tremendous heritage to live up to.
You have a trailblazing spirit in your blood.
Not even in your blood, though. In
your birthright. When you become a member of the church, it's
part
your heritage.
Of your birthright. You celebrate Pioneer Day whether you were baptized last week or whether your family has been in there for 5 generations. It is part of you. You are joining a club.
So let me ask
Maybe
you.
a cult, but
let me ask you this. My buddies in Saints Unscripted and a lot of the academics and apologists who don't like it when we're a little bit too racy.
Yeah, let me ask you this. What are you afraid to lose? Huh? What are you afraid to lose? The person who's actively trying to tear down the church from the inside, is that who you're afraid to lose?
Tell me one part of history where it was a good idea to take pointers from the people that actively want to destroy you. I have to make sure my apologetics doesn't offend the people that live, breathe, and eat, killing me and everything I believe in. No, you wimp.
You're going to have a dialogue with the Missouri mobsters? I think we could really come together. Bam, bam, bam. Oh my gosh.
I think we forgot. We tried this before.
Yeah, multiple times.
They were killing us. That's why
They kicked us out of Missouri. They kicked us out of Nauvoo. Once we were in winter quarters, they're like, it's time to go.
Well, what if Peggy Fletcher Stack of the Salt Lake Tribune doesn't like what we have to... Who cares what that 90-year-old woman has to say on her article? They killed us. They're not... Can we accept the fact that we're Mormons and they're not going to like us? Can we just... They never have and they won't. Stop trying to be accepted by people that we wear underwear with symbols on it under our clothing and they think we're bad for that. That's where is the friendship here? You know what I'm saying? Like, if they hate you, they hate you. If they've decided I'm an anti-Mormon, speaking as softly as you can
it's not going to win them over.
Honestly, it's going to make it worse. You know, is that it's like, what is it?
It's like a sign of like conciliation.
What is it? The quote, traitors of your enemy are worse than your enemy. It's like you disrespect people who like have traded from their side that's against you, then you disrespect the people initially against you. Oh. Like it's like, oh yeah, you were on the other side. Oh, and Ooh, and you gave us their information. Oh, you have no honor either. Oh, you're horrible. Oh, all right, tell us what you know. But like, that's what it's like. What are you afraid of? You need apologists, academics, from the Gen Z perspective of someone, right? I'm not saying I'm the best at this because I'm clearly not, but I have Google Drive folders full of screenshots and messages from people who've said, hey, you've helped me join the church. This is the reason I've gotten baptized, and they're now part of the kingdom of God. And that did not come by being super careful and walking on eggshells. It came with honesty and me wearing all of my sins on my sleeve. Rated R movie, it's just online. I don't hide anything. I throw some parties, boom, right there. I don't hide anything.
Don't you get a royalty every time Jeremy Reynolds watches here?
Yeah, it's like, he made this disgusting and profane movie. Here's the link to it. It's on Amazon Prime, Roku, and iTunes. Don't like cha-ching, my guy. So, but the point is, authenticity is what works, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Nobody cares what the blue checks and the journos have to say anymore. That we are past the point where people really care about what journalists have to say. Nobody young cares. Okay, if people
are smart enough to make up their own mind,
they are.
It's very apparent. This is not the age where things are so isolated that you're like, I need someone to go as an in-between. You don't need.
Do you think we would have gotten this many people baptized if they weren't smart enough to make up their mind? We're bumbling dummies. You know what I'm saying?
What did President Hinckley say? He's like, it's no wonder the church. No, the church is true because
you haven't ruined it yet. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, also, there's a level in which people like to see a real person. When they just see completely polished academia trying to represent itself as church media to get people on board, they don't like it. It is not something people want to see. And look, I know I'm biased because I'm coming from this youth perspective, but that seems to be the focus. It's how do we get the youth to watch? How do we get the youth to stay? How do we get the youth to say? When we do our like Sunday night events where we bring people over and talk about the gospel, we just did one about Joseph Smith. The people who are showing up were not people that you find in a Facebook discussion group on LDS exegetical analysis. It was dancers, athletes, party people, like frat people who believe but are kind of inactive, and they're there like, wow, this is amazing. I really enjoy this. Because it was just authentic. We're people. I'm not here to say, I'll do anything I can to make sure you stay in the church. No, I'm here to say this is the kingdom of God and let's celebrate because it's fun. And that's the attitude you have to have. That's the counterculture. That's the trailblazing spirit. We built temples out of mountain granite. We built our vault with the mountain granite.
Before trains, we didn't even have machines. We went up there with like a pick and an axe and a hammer, and we chiseled. The walls of the Salt Lake Temple are like 6 or 9 feet thick at the bottom. Like, they cared about this. They cared about it more than anything. And if you care about something, you should be enthusiastic about it. Enthusiasm means God in us.
Bring your faulty enthusiasm. You're not perfect. Who said that your perfection, like you need to show perfection when you're talking about the gospel?
The people who are doing it aren't perfect. Christ. The people who are very like straight-laced and like the missionaries that like turn the pamphlet page they're not perfect either. You think if that is perfection,
The reason why the antis and the Exmos are going after us so hard is they're afraid of us because they know we're not afraid of them. They know that a lot of the apologists and the academics are afraid, and they know that as soon as they complain on Facebook, the most who cares app, by the way, on Facebook, and then a bunch of Gen Xers on the Wasatch Front decide to chime in. You know what I mean? Ugh, who
Facebook
cares?
Groups seem like the places where like people who aren't heard can go and scream into the abyss and pretend they're being heard, but it just disappears.
Nobody cares, right? Like nobody cares. At least the New Name Noah guy is on TikTok. At least. TikTok? Yeah, it's kind of weird. He like wears a robe and he's like, Joseph Smith. People go, why do you look like V for Vendetta? But it doesn't matter, right? But they know that you're afraid of them. And that's why they know all they have to do is go right on Facebook, and they know that you're like, I don't want to be seen as bad. I appreciate you, David Bakavoy, and I'm sorry that someone hurt your feelings. And
wait,
they know that
Bakavoy, why did you leave the church? I went to your classes before you did. You were awesome. I really looked up to you, but I guess it's not for everybody. It's too bad you left.
I don't really know who he is.
He was awesome. He speaks like Akkadian and Hebrew and a million other languages, but he's gone.
I don't. The funny thing is, I still don't know most of these people. Like the ones who like I've met John DeLynn, haven't met Runnels. I like Kate Kelly. She's pretty cool. I kind of like Lindsay Hansen Park, although like you know who that is? She's like the Sunstone leader. Like she's like this redhead. She looks both like 35 and 18 at the same time. She's like timeless. Like she's like a Twilight vampire. It's like it's like I don't know how like you could be anything. But every time she posts on Facebook, and I deleted the app, but every time she posts on Facebook, like there's a million reply guys, like ex-Mormon reply guys in their 30s who were like, "You're right on, sister. Wow, you're so beautiful and smart." And it's like, come on, man. We know what you want. And it's like that. Like those are the people you want to impress. No, there are thousands, millions of people who want to hear about what we believe, who know that what we believe is interesting, that our view of God, our view of the afterlife, our rituals, our history, our scriptures, it's interesting. It's Christian. It's kind of pagan-y.
Yeah.
It's its own thing, and it's beautiful. And we created an entire unique culture and history, rich with tradition, rich with poetics, rich with all of this beauty. And you are doing all away with that by trying to fit in the box that the anti-Mormons have paved for you. When instead,
using their language, using their kind of like academic, soft-spoken, it's like anesthetizing. It sounds like Saints Unscripted has gone from like just having their coffee in the morning to like it's wearing off and now they're just about to fall asleep.
They said, "I made you a bed," but they really dug a grave, and now you're lying down in it. And they're putting their dirt on top. You're going, "Wow, this is a nice comforter." Stop it. Stop it. Be faulty. Be a sinner. Make mistakes, but show your authenticity in the gospel. Paul did that. Peter did that.
Peter had plenty of mistakes, but he just kept going, and he was fiery, and tons and tons of people respond. He has like the best epistles in the New Testament.
Paul, I would that you should cut it all off when they're talking about how circumcision is, like circumcision is really important. He goes, "You think that's going to save you? Just chop it all off."
He's like, "Why did you stop there?"
It's in the Bible. He tells them to chop off their. He put a joke in. The monks kept it in because it was funny. Do you understand? Like, it was funny. Like, I think we forget. You don't have to be perfect. Stop trying to live by the standard that the enemies of Jesus and the enemies of the kingdom of God have created for you. Reject the standard. Do your own thing. That's the winning attitude. That's how we take these guys down. At Stone 16, we are not about kowtowing to a guy who wrote a PDF that nobody cares about anymore, who is like, "I'm leaving the church, and here's my book about it."
Yeah,
you guys,
no.
You
guys, you try to reconcile anti-Mormon literature with the gospel truth because you're assuming they're both on an equal plane. They are not. One is truth, and one is full of lies. You can't reconcile that. That like a dialogue is when you know half the truth and I know the other half, and then we work out and we come to a greater whole. These people are lying, lying through their teeth. Whether they believe it or whether they don't, they're lying. It is not true, and the consequences are dire. Not just in the next life, in this life.
Well, I think what's also interesting is like I'm not going to highlight the hypocrisy of like, well, the ex-Mormons say mean things. I don't care about that. They know they're hypocritical, and every time we focus on the fact they're hypocritical, it gives them more clout. What I care about is something like how it's funny that Peggy Fletcher Stack, Salt Lake Tribune, Religion, whatever, at Religion Gal, whatever. She's made multiple articles about me at this point, but refuses to cover the story of her associate, Tom Kimball.
Who's Tom?
Prominent ex-Mormon figure, molested many children. I'm going to show you. Whoa! I fell on the chair. We'll cut that up. I'm going to show you the screenshot here. Okay? This is pretty horrific. So, wait. I got it here. Steve. I can't say who made it, but Steven Smith made it. Good to know. Okay. Fair drops his controversial videos mocking critics of the LDS Church. Do you think they were effective? What would be a better way to reach a young audience? She tweets that out. Her article she wrote. Suicide, complicated grief, and hidden darkness of the heart. Tom Kimball was a pedophile who raped children. And then people said, just curious whether you have an article planned, Peggy. And she said, not at this point. She's not covering it. A prominent ex-Mormon figure, friends with all of them, molesting children. She won't touch it. Some college students buy some costumes from like the theater store on Center Street and say, hey, I'm Satan. Do you see ES letter silly? Ha 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 ha. She goes, this is horrific. Give a platform to people, Peggy. Giving platforms to anti-Mormons who make their money, who like to go and claim Joseph Smith was a pedophile and the church was founded by pedophiles. Give them a platform. Prod them up. But your buddies that actually are and then off themselves because of the guilt, you won't cover that. Like I said, these people aren't playing by rules, so why should you play by the rules? Stop it. Be unique, be authentic, and you can make public mistakes. I like people who make public mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I like that. I don't like trying to fit us into the mold that was crafted for us by our enemies. It's the opposite of a Trojan horse. It's just... So
letting them set the rules. It doesn't work. It never has.
And it never will.
It never will.
I think I'll end with this. Adam and Eve are in the garden. They're expelled from the garden, and they start this entire world. We can trace all of ourselves back to Adam and Eve. In our bloodline, when you've accepted the covenant, is Moses fighting against the Pharaoh, freeing his people, walking through the desert, and then calling upon God to split the Red Sea and drown his enemies. Okay? You've got David fighting a giant. You've got Joan of Arc speaking to angels and freeing France. You've got so many amazing things. You've got Joseph Smith with the Nauvoo Legion, the first vision. You've got an entire record of ancient natives coming to the forefront so we can see the timeline of society. We have rituals in the temple to make us understand and know what's going to happen when we get to the gates of heaven. We've got so much. And you are not allowing that to motivate and excite you to the point where you should be yelling a little bit. The best hymn we have in the church is the Spirit of God like a fire is burning. We'll sing and we'll shout with the armies of heaven. Hosanna, Hosanna to God and the Lamb. That's enthusiastic. Stop worrying.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
It is. It is. And that's what we try to do here. Look, we're all going to make mistakes. But the reality is the enemy is very clear. The people who want to destroy the kingdom of God and make sure that heaven is less crowded. Or the people who want heaven to be packed. And that's who we are. And we're not saying you got to be perfect. We're not saying you got to vote one certain way. We're not saying you have to do X, Y, Z. We're saying, here's the truth. Here are the lies. This one makes you happier. This one makes you miserable. This one keeps apart families. This one destroys families. This one makes you more entrepreneurial minded and individualistic. This one makes you a corporatist and literally believe everything that mainstream media tells you. This one makes you healthier. This one says eat crap. This one says be more emotionally stable. This one says have sex with as many people as you can and be depressed. Like literally, it's like night and day. But quick, who made a rated R movie? He throws parties and girls twerk, and he had a rated R movie. Yes, I'm cooler than you. All right, I am. There you go, Jeremy. I'm cooler. Well,
I didn't know he was 5'5".
I don't know if he's actually 5'5", but in my head, he's like
Okay.
Danny DeVito. You know what I'm saying?
He's probably my height.
I think he's pretty short, dude. Like I'm not saying I'm LeBron James, but like John DeLynn is tall though.
Really?
He's like a Viking man. He's like a very tall man. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the Stone 16 podcast. And I think will we get some flack for this?
Oh, yeah.
What are they gonna do? Kick us out of the church? Oh wait, they don't have one.
It's always funny, isn't it, that they it's almost like they're fighting like their income's dependent on it.
Why have an OnlyFans when you can be our OnlyFan?
Cut! Oh my gosh, Mia!